questions that my buddy Mick Manhattan, unfortunately, he was going to be doing this panel, but he is not feeling so well at the moment.
We don't need him.
Exactly, we don't need him. We've got this.
The show goes
asked,
on.
So how did you get the role of the iconic Jason Voorhees after he was in his hiatus in the fifth film?
You know, I was fortunate. I always tell people luck, and luck has a lot to do with things. The thing about luck is once you get something, you got to perform and make sure you deliver the product. And I was doing my best. I hope I delivered the product. I was a general manager of a nightclub in Los Angeles. Had a hypnotist show on Thursdays, and the hypnotist decided to bring in a production company to shoot his show so he could put it together for a promotional tape for maybe possible Las Vegas, etc. And it just happened the production company was called Real Effects, R-E-E-L, Real Effects. They did all the special effects on part 4 with Ted White. So they told the hypnotist, hey, let's put CJ, his big ass, in a costume because we got the wardrobe and he's the right size. And let's have him come through the screen and scare the subjects. And when I sit there and look at you and say the rest is history, the rest is history. So they giggled and said, we're going to cast you. And I giggled and said, yeah, whatever. And a few months later, I got a call to go meet Frank Mancuso Jr., Paramount Studios, the director, Tom McLaughlin, and Michael, the stunt coordinator. And truly, the rest is history.
That's fantastic. Now, was the James Bond parody opening was amazing. Now, was that something that was always planned on being done, or was that a discussion that happened later?
No, that was Tom McLaughlin fully. If you take a look at the entire script, the way it was written, Tom really wanted to put a little bit of a cheek in it, you know, funny, you know, but still serious. You can't make fun of Jason. And if you think about it, part 6, there's 3 words, I think, swear words. That's it. There's no boobs or sex scenes of heavily where you have to hide your kid's eyes. I mean, a 5-year-old could watch it sincerely. And then there's some giggles. You know, what did you want to be when you grew up? You know, because people know they're going to die. But it's, you know what, it's a little bit different the way it was scripted. Plus, it had to be a launching platform to take from where, unfortunately, part 5 wasn't as successful and to relaunch the product, the brand. So they had to make sure it came out reasonably strong. So, and fortunately for us, it did.
I did, absolutely. And now with that, you brought an awesome Frankenstein type. Like, you brought this whole new Jason to the screen. So was that something that you discussed with Tommy, or was that something that you did for prepping for the role? How did you get into that space?
Well, my prepping involved just showing up. You know, I didn't even look at the script till I got there. Not that I wasn't interested. I'd rather be on set and, you know, do it. I haven't looked at a script for a movie part I'm doing next month. That's why I've got this beard. I've got the script, but I want to wait till maybe a week before to look at it entirely because things change so much. You know, I don't want to get psyched out and I'm thinking I'm supposed to be playing a certain part a certain way and then it changes. And shit does change. Tom McLaughlin really laid out the floor plan of what I wanted. But, you know, being 6'3", 250-ish, you know, reasonably out of the military a few years before that, I still walk, unfortunately or fortunately, authoritative. You know, 30 inches all around. I'm a pretty big guy. So when I walk into a room, I don't really just kind of walk in. I walk in. And I don't mean that arrogantly. I'm just a big guy. What do you want me to do? You know,
Just a bit of ownership.
It just isn't me. So I walk in and I just, you know, that was just my natural strut. And, you know, when I stand up straight and my shoulders always pulled back. You know, I'm older now. I'm 64. So, you know, when I tuck and roll, in the old days, I could tuck and roll. Now I go thumb. And I've been put off my horse before when it hurts when I hit now. It's not like, oh, yeah, shoot. Oh. Thank you. It still moved my feet, but that hurt. So, you know, you got to take a few things and, you know, you get a little older, your body doesn't quite react as well as your mind. So.
Now, can you tell us about the amazing RV scene and how it was done with the epic crash?
Yeah, the RV scene was a one shot because we had one RV to mess up, and if we didn't do it right, we were in trouble. But the nice thing is, it went up over the hinge perfectly. It landed sideways. It totally didn't break apart. Just enough to see that it was, you know, reconfigured. It was the interesting thing is when they, you know, the sun was getting ready to come up. They were trying to push it quickly because once the sun comes up, it's too late. They took the hinges off the door, and the first thing is, well, do we need to put a fake door, or do you think we can get it off? So they put me on a couple boxes, and I took a position crouched like a football player, And when I heard the word action, I just hit it full board with elbows and it flew. Who knew? It flew. And when I had to step out, you got to realize I'm stepping up on boxes out, and you're trying to get your feet positioned so that you step out authoritatively rather than, and again, luck intervened, and I was able to step out and take a position and walk to the end of the motorhome and just stand there. I mean, you can't see too much in a hockey mask, so you don't want to go too far. You might end up on the ground. But I walked straight out and just stood there. And when he said cut, that was it. The sun was coming up behind us. We were done, and off we went. We didn't realize how iconic that photo would be today, 35 years later.
Yeah, very well known, very iconic. Now, one question I have is, what was one of the most difficult kills for you to film?
Well, they were all easy. I got 18 of them. Kind of like living in California. You don't go to jail either. I'm from Montana. I can say that. Difficult. I guess none of them are really difficult. Well, you got to realize when you're 27 and you think you're a badass, you're not, but you think you are. What do you want me to do? Oh, I can do that. We're going to set you on fire. No problem. How much you pay me? Yeah, I can do that. They would pay me to do these stunts, and I'm like, hey, this is cool. I think the thing that folks don't know is I was not a stunt person. I had never been to stunt school, ever. It wasn't even on my mind. So, when I started doing stunts, being set on fire and having cables hooked on my back and being 20 feet underwater, breathing off regulators, that wasn't a stunt person. That was just me. I did all my own stunts, which was part of the contractual agreement. Sometimes I'll sit with Kane Hodder and Tom and others, Steve Dash, and they're all stuntmen. And when they find out, hey, you didn't go to stunt school? I'm like, no. They're like, are you out of your mind? Again, when you're 27-ish, yeah, maybe a little bit.
Hey, different way to learn to fall, right?
Well, your testosterone level is a little different level, and you think you are just full of it, and you are. And bang, bang, boom.
That's fantastic. What was your favorite kill that you did?
I enjoyed killing the sheriff. And the reason for that is there's no guts, there's no blood, just pure power. Even today,
I'm glad we've got a chair between us. That's it.
I can just think of that snapping, the force it would take. I don't mean it's not gory in any way. Just think about the force to take somebody's arm or whatever, like a chicken wing.
And how about taking out those 4 in one shot?
That's a machete, though. That's you see what I'm saying? This is all just pure, and I respect what you're saying, but this is just pure.
Yeah.
Taking that leg right there and just, I don't know, man. If somebody do that, it's pretty gross. You don't have to have blood and guts for that. You hear that popping and tight, man, tight.
Oof. Yeah, the one that always gets me with that pure force is the face through.
Yeah, Darcy, and that's the thing about these folks I work with. Darcy DeMoss, for instance, we got into a good fight. They put us into this small 4-foot by 4-foot configuration, about the camera down from the top, and they said, go for it. And Darcy said, what do you want to do? I said, look, I'll grab you by your chin and the back of your head. I'll get you by the back of your shirt. I can pick you up, and you just go for it. And she did. She kicked the shit out of me. That woman just nailed it. She went crazy in that little room, and she did a great job. And it was just me taking the blows, which, it was okay. I don't know if it hurt, and I don't remember, but, for her later on in that shot to allow me to take her head physically and throw it into a camera lens and stop.
Yeah.
That was pretty amazing on her part that she trusted me that much.
It's a lot of trust.
Tom, I put a knife in the side of his head. Well, up until the stop like that was a real knife. And he allowed me to do that. Tom Matthews probably did 90% of his stunts underwater with me. I was holding on to him. The difference between what I was doing is I was physically chained down, a real chain. I wasn't going anywhere. They put it around a center block, and I stood on 2 center blocks on the bottom of a 20-foot pool at USC, diving pool. And, there was no way I was going to get the chain off. My gloves, I'm out of air or whatever. So I would signal for air. Divers would just swim in, lift my mask, because at the middle of the night, it's black. I can't see anything. And just shove a regulator and clear it in my mouth. Tom, he would signal, they'd swim into him, but if he ever got in trouble, at least he knew he could swim, 16 feet straight up and get to the oxygen. There's no way I was going to take that chain with me. Wow. That sucker was big.
Yeah.
It was holding me down. But I had safety divers around me. So, again, 27-ish, you think, hey, I'm cool.
Was there anything, was the lighting on fire a bit jarring by comparison?
No, I wish I could sit and tell you it was terrifying, but to me, it was your adrenaline's going. They're paying you to do it. And I'm like, ooh. I can't emphasize enough. Every time I got that, it's called a stunt bump paycheck, man, I was right down to the bank the next day. Damn Scooby-Doo. Boom. You know, you didn't realize, you know, every time they set you on fire, they pay you. So I'm like, oh, how many times you want to do this? You know, I'll shoot this all night long. But it wasn't, you know, it was really, Michael Nomad was my stunt coordinator. He told me how I would feel. They put me in a race car driver's suit, then they put my wardrobe over it. And he told me basically how long I had where till I was really burning. And you know what? You just go for it until you feel. And then when I was ready, I would put myself out. So
Really?
I was in control at the end of the day. But it is interesting when you got a hockey mask on, you can only see like this. That's all you see one eye. And you got these flames coming out your mask and you're thinking, am I getting paid for this and how much? You know, so it was pretty wicked.
And then, so what else, do you have any other stories from the final fight sequences? Anything else that, you know, kind of stuck with you?
You mean the naked girl and stuff?
Yeah, the naked girl.
Oh, yeah. No. You know, the final scenes and stuff, the interesting thing, people don't know this, that when you shoot, there's a lot of different variables that go into shooting. It's just not a straight on. There's point of views, POVs and stuff. But the underwater scene is 4 different water bodies. So we're shooting in the lake back in Covington, Georgia, which is a stagnant lake with water moccasins and leeches. The scene where Jason's mask gets tore up in the propeller is in the backyard of Tom McLaughlin's mother and father's pool. The burn scene is in another pool at USC, and then the 20-foot depth of the diving pool at USC. So there's 4 different water body parts for the scene of the water scene, but you don't know because they're too busy cutting back and forth.
Yeah, that's a lot. Anybody, any questions so far? Anyone got any audience participation? Let's fire off, starting back here, first one up.
Can you talk about shooting the music video with Alice Cooper?
You know, Alice, you know, my very, very first concert, I mean, I was in the military 47 years ago, but before that, 48 years ago, my first concert was Alice Cooper. Welcome to My Nightmare, it was called the show. So for me to get a chance to work with him a dozen years later is crazy. I just saw him a couple weeks ago at a show in Las Vegas, did wardrobes with him, doing the video and all that thing. To this day, it's one of his highlights he always talks about, because when you go meet Alice Cooper, there's always pictures of Alice Cooper and Jason, and people want that picture. And he is the Whoremeister, you know. I mean, he started it back in '72, Welcome to My Nightmare. So he's one of those people that you just can't, he's a very humble man, 70, 30 years sober. Very proud of that. He talks about it. Got a great wife and family. He lives in Phoenix, Arizona. He's a scratch golfer. I don't know what that means because I don't golf. But I heard that's important. So I just put it out there. I mean, I don't understand hitting a ball and chasing it. If I hit something, it's to get it out of my face. So I'm not working on that yet, but I don't have the patience to chase a little ball around the boneyard. But he's a really sincerely nice man. Very nice, very humble.
That's fantastic. We have one over here.
So in the iconic scene with the spear, when you put it through the windshield and you nearly killed Tom McLaughlin's wife.
She was in the way.
What was your mindset at that point? You were kind of lost in the character? She
No.
was in the way?
So for those of you who don't know, again, they were like, should we put a breakaway window, CJ? And you've got a real spear, or do you think you can put it through the windshield? I can do that. So when your force momentum is going forward and I hit the windshield to make sure I broke it, my body motion then took me from this position to that position because I'm going over the top of a hood of a car. And in doing so, I went from the driver's seat where I hit right above the steering wheel to impaling the chair in the passenger seat. So the good thing is she went all the way down like she was told to do, you know. The interesting part is that, you know, it wasn't that it was closed, but definitely she was down. And if you know Volkswagens, they're really got a lot of depth underneath in those days, the older ones. She went all the way down like she was supposed to. But yeah, that window exploded and I ended up halfway through the seat into the back seat. I got carried away, I guess.
Strong commitment.
When I was talking with Tom Matthews, I asked him specifically about that opening sequence, how he basically brought you back to look at Jason was dead. Jason was killed off in part 4. He was not Jason in part 5. Tom Matthews, Tommy was still obsessed. He was ruled by Jason's memory. We had to dig him up. At which point in that sequence in the grave, was it not a mannequin, or was it you the whole time in that grave with the worms and the maggots and the whole 9 yards?
There's one scene when he's hitting it, and if you look closer, you can tell it's a mannequin
Okay.
because the whole thing moves when he's stabbing it. Because you don't get to stab me, that's not cool.
That wasn't in the
That ain't
contract.
cool. But you know, when they did put me into it, I will always give Christopher Swift as his name credit for the maggots. I was on first unit shooting, and they were trying to do a second unit shooting. They thought they'd get the close up of the eye. Chris was on real effects, so he's got green eyes like I. And he said, well, I can do that. So he painted all of his face up and everything. And they did the close up with Christopher's eyeball with the maggots. And they had a maggot wrangler with a Q-tip, keeping them out of his eye. No, seriously. So I got to give Christopher, credit for that. But once the eye opened, that's my eye, and you see me moving my eye around. When you see me come out, it's very similar. The step out of the grave, very similar how I stepped out on top of the motorhome, if you look at it,
Oh, yeah.
because I had to take a big step and how I position myself to stand up and take a position. So if you go back and look at the motorhome, you can see a resemblance, and obviously the way my body was working to get out of that hole.
Absolutely. In part 6, I would say Jason looked like the most horrific, straight out of the grave. How long did it take in that makeup chair to get you all made up?
When we first, there's some scenes, you shoot everything out of sequence. Nothing is shot systematically through. So when we were shooting some scenes of older, like in the coffin, we had to have a full maggot head, they call me. And the full wardrobe took about 5 hours to get into it. But once we got into other scenes where I got the 357 hole and other, it was basically a 45-minute setup, from head to toe to get ready. Like today at 3:45, pump, I'll be doing the Jason wardrobe. I'll be putting all the wardrobe on. It'll take me about 30 minutes to get into wardrobe. And then at 3:45, I'll do photos with the fans and stuff.
And are you gonna be lit on fire today?
Well, it depends on who comes in. I mean, if somebody lights me up, it is what it is, right? I always worry about selling machetes on my table because they're real. I'm waiting for somebody to whack me. I'm like, I always got my eyes up on them because it's like, you can't sell plastic machetes. That wouldn't be cool.
Right, they know. We got one more back here.
Yeah, so how did you feel the first time you were in full Jason costume and you saw yourself, like you were Jason?
My very first scene, which will always be my favorite, was the scene where Jason steps into POV, point of view, side profile, and behind him is the motorhome rocking, and then he turns sideways and tilts his head a little bit. That was my very, very first scene in wardrobe, and then I just started walking towards the motorhome. So that'll always be my favorite because that's when all of a sudden I knew I was there. Now, again, to be fair, not knowing 35 years ago the impact we've had. Anybody here over 35? I want you to look around. Everybody else is under 35 for the most part. So when you think about it, those of you that are 35, you were just a squirt, number one. And those of you who are older remember, but everybody in this room has a story of their mother, their sister, their brother, the neighbor. Somebody forced them to watch Jason Friday the 13th. You do. No, I mean, and it's like a connectivity to, my first time I saw it with my little sister made me sit there and she scared me and but it's an unusual connectivity. I mean, look at the people in here. I don't care if you're purple, green, or blue. I don't care if you're from Pluto, Venus, or Mars. Everybody comes to these shows, has a great time, and they all have a commonality of something horror related. Doesn't have to be just Jason, Linda Blair, Michael Myers, whatever. And it's kind of an unusual group of folks. And there's so many closet horror people that you don't even think about it. You'll be standing at the copy machine one day and say something, oh, I was at Fear Fest. Oh, yeah, really? I love horror. Really? You'll look at, I've had it happen. I had a girl come up, last year, got a nice autograph. And so what do you do? She goes, oh, I'm a colonel in the United States Air Force. Okay. And what are you going to do with the photo? I'm going to put it behind my desk. So I said, well, ma'am, I was just a sergeant, but I can't imagine coming into your office and you got a picture of Jason on the back of your desk. I mean, that's an icebreaker. But it's true. I mean, she was a colonel and she was a horror fan. And you can't understand the impact that you guys are talking about something. All of a sudden you have a commonality between that person and that person. And I don't expect you to be best friends, but all of a sudden you start talking about something that you both are intrigued about. And horror, believe it or not, is a very compelling communication issue that people start talking about on a regular basis. And I'm sure there's quite a few of you that are just now thinking, you know what, I remember he's right. How humbling is that to be part of that? I've even had a young person come up to me, kind of sounded weird, but he got real emotional, 20-ish, 21, and he was bullied at school. He'd go home and watch Friday the 13th, part 6. Now, first thing I thought, oh shit, he's gonna hurt somebody. But it was his therapy that their people were different. And I never thought of, well, I never thought of Jason being therapy, but for that person, it worked. Okay, you know, good, that's great. So I think it's just one of those things when you start talking about horror and you start talking, you'd be surprised how many people, suit and tie, truck drivers, whatever, first responders will all, oh, I remember when, you know, I got forced to watch it with my little brother or my big brother. My mom made me watch it. But you have memories, and some of them are pretty good.
Perfect example is my brother, 9 years older. I'm a horror fan because he was 9 years older and was watching horror, and as a little kid, I watched horror, and here I am.
And you turned out okay.
No.
Yeah, most of us seem all right.
Good job, brother.
So, what was one of your first major exposures to horror then? What was one that brought you into it?
You know, I'm a little older, as I said, so I'm a big Universal horror fan. You know, I like Frankenstein and Dracula. You know, I really think Werewolf, and I look at those as being my iconic images. The black and whites are just Top Gun to me. And it's fortunate that we've been fortunate enough with the Friday the 13th and the Michael Myers and Leatherface and Freddy Krueger's 30, 40 years later to be part of that genre that we picked up. And there are a lot of great films out there, It and a few different ones. And, you know, we'll see how they do in 10 or 15, 20 years if they're still there, and wish them the best. But we've been really fortunate that we're 30, 40 years into these characters and still being received well. We'll see what happens.
I'd say so, yeah. It was a pretty solid reception thus far.
Well, I would say history is the biggest teller of what's going to be coming. You're not in Friday the 13th, part 6 has withstood the time of history, and it's definitely earned its place. For me, it's the last good Friday the 13th.
Don't forget to get your $100 bill at the door. You got to put a plant into the.
It doesn't take how to hear that either, so.
Who?
Exactly that guy.
Exactly. We don't discuss it.
Who?
He who shall not be mentioned.
Everybody know Kane Hodder, my little brother? Kane and I are good friends. Just, you know, I razz the crap out of him, you know, because I got a big mouth, and he's more quiet than I am. But I razz the shit out of Kane, sometimes to the point where he gets frustrated because he's more quiet. I'm like, then he starts getting mad at me and calling me BJ. Hey, BJ. What?
Can
He's
I
asked.
mention that then when I talk?
Oh yeah, I don't care. Do I look like I'm gonna run?
No.
He's done things like we'll be next to each other, and he'll, you know, I razz him a little bit, and he'll do, hey, Siege, take a picture of me and this guy. Okay, I jump up, go over there and take a picture. Blow his mind like, I thought I was gonna say something like, yeah, you. Or, no,
Yeah, right.
I get up and take the photo. It's like, oh my.
Well, do you and Kane have anything back and forth? Like each one of you might have stole a little something from a piece of memorabilia from set? Maybe a little challenge to you as a better piece?
Oh, I didn't steal anything. I took it.
That's at least what fun about it.
There's no, you know, there were 2 hockey masks ended up in my it was late. They were laying there. Somebody might have forgot about them. I thought I put them in my bag, and who knew?
So what is the story? I mean, how did Kane get the job in part 7? And did they come to you, or?
Yeah, I was already slotted to do part 7. And Kane will tell you the same thing. They were going forward with it. Kane was a friend of John's. He'd worked with John many times, who was the writer director. And Kane's a huge horror fan, to be fair. I mean, big time horror. So he had to go to John and try to convince John. John said, I got to go to Paramount. And Frank Mancuso Jr. of Paramount said, well, we're going to use the guy in 6. And John wanted, and usually directors have a little bit of pull. John wanted to use his guy. And, you know, he's done well. I will say that 7, 8, 9, 10 that Kane Hodder did, he's been a great ambassador for the series. You know, for the last 20 years, I've been running casino resorts as, you know, general manager or chief operating officer. I couldn't have run around and done what he's done. I've enjoyed having a steady paycheck for the last 20 years, and then 4 years ago, I retired. So he's been a great ambassador. Everybody knows Kane.
He's got like a new movie called Knife Corp coming out.
You know, he's doing different things and different projects. I mean, it's like I said, me growing this beard, it's, you know, I'll be playing Elias Voorhees next month in Vengeance, and then I can shave this crap off. So I've got a few weeks of shooting next month, and it'll be Bloodlines, which is part 2 of the original Vengeance. So, I mean, it's fun. I mean, the things you get to do. We did a movie, Kane and I did a movie right before the pandemic called 13 Fanboy. Dee Wallace and Deborah Voorhees and Corey Feldman and a few others. So, and we just shot a couple weeks ago in Las Vegas for a film with Tom Devlin. A small part in that, doing it. And then as opportunities open up now, we'll be able to do things. For me, it's fun. For the 20, 25 years I ran casino resorts, it wasn't my thing. You know, I had a responsibility and I took care of it. Now that I'm done, I still have an SAG card. So I can do things and have fun with it. And if I make $5, great. If I make $2, that's fine too.
It's a strong position to be in.
Yeah, to me, it's just fun. Have a good time.
Do what you enjoy. Anyone else? Anyone other questions? Yes.
I was gonna say, you and Kane are still good friends.
Are we? No, we are. I haven't talked to Kane in 2 months. Him and I generally have conversations at shows. I texted him a couple weeks ago to see how he's doing. He just got his family relocated to Utah. He still has a crash pad in LA. So yeah, we talked, and I know what he's doing. He was at a show recently about a week ago in town. And then of course Derek Mears, you know, we talked. He just left me a voicemail the other day. So we have communications, and I just saw Warrington Gillette a couple weeks ago. So Tony Todd was there. So we get to see everybody. It's just part of a genre that we're fortunate enough to be part of.
One of the best genres. I think we can all agree.
So you're 26, you're managing a nightclub, and then all of a sudden you're Jason Voorhees. What does that do? I don't know if at 26 you had a life plan, but does that like
No, I wasn't. You know what? When I gave me the Screen Actors Guild card, I didn't know what it was. You know, people I guess cut off their arms to get those. It's called Tap Hartley. They gave me one basically. Then I took over a nightclub, a private nightclub for Jackie Collins, Joan Collins' sister, in Beverly Hills in the Beverly Center, which was members only. And when I say members only, you know, Tom Jones, Sylvester Stallone, Prince, you know, that was your clientele. And one of the managers from an agency said, well, you did the Friday the 13th. I go, yeah. He goes, what are you doing now? I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, do you have a SAG card? I go, yeah. He goes, well, why don't you go on calls at least? So I did. I ended up landing 5 or 6 national commercials and some things while I was still running clubs. But I knew with my physical characteristics that, listen, Tom Cruise is 5'7", 5'8".
With the platforms?
Well, my point is, no disrespect, it's just, I'm abstract. You know, and in those days, I used to think, God, if there was an agency that just represented big people that would wear prosthetics and didn't really care, that would be me. But I knew in my heart I wasn't going to make a living out of it. So I took my little change I made and went to Vegas, bought a house, and went back in the casino industry.
Oh, wow.
And then just went through the ranks till I was in charge.
All right, good question. Anybody else? Oh, we got one over here. Yes.
Is there like a certain place that you had to get to, like every day when you got on set before they started like filming, or was it just you just sort of went in and like were yourself?
No, I always reported to makeup. It's pretty simple. First thing I do is go to wardrobe, to be fair. They put my wardrobe on, or, you know, there's pictures of me out there sitting there flipping the bird without a shirt on because I didn't put my shirt on until, you know, they were done with the makeup. But I put my, you know, my drawers and stuff on and go sit in the makeup and do my makeup. And once I'd sit there until they called me. Sometimes you get in makeup and it take 3-4 hours before they call you for a set call. Sometimes even more. You know, so sometimes they'll call you a wrap and you're walking away and they call you back. So it's kind of like disorganized chaos, but it's organized.
So it was like internally, like to be Jason, like was there a certain place like mentally and emotionally that you had to get to, or was it just sort of like, since you didn't really have much speaking to do when you were behind masks and prosthetics, was it not really, you know?
Well, I mean, you get in that dark spot in there all the time, so it's all good. It's easy. But people don't understand, and I always challenge people because people say, well, you don't have to say anything. And I challenge anybody in here to stand up and put a mask on and show me anger, show me frustration, show me curiosity, because when you can speak, like now, what? What happened? Everybody jump? What? Emotion can be transferred through reaction. Now, when you're Jason, you don't get to do that. It's just straight, but you can't say anything. It's the voice that terrified you because you didn't hear it coming. And when you think about that, it's a little challenging. I have more people now who, put a wardrobe on, and they're so shocked how they go into wardrobe. They go into costume. They don't say anything as soon as they put the mask on. I have people come up to my table and they will not say a word the whole time. They have somebody there speaking for them while they're getting an autograph. But once they put the mask on, and then when they take the mask off, they'll start talking to me. So it's kind of an interesting flavor. When people say, well, you didn't say anything, I say, well, why don't you put a mask on and show me you're pissed off? You have to do it physicality as far as how you move your body, your angles and stuff. So it is a little different. And like he had said over here, I was fortunate enough that I've been a good Jason that I can project it with my physical just standing up because I'm kind of big to begin with, and I don't walk around like do 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 do. I'm not singing through the tulips or anything.
Bouncing around.
Yeah. So, but that gives you an idea, the characteristics, and then just the physicality. I'm even at my age, I'm still pretty big. And I got it going on now, man. You know why? Because there's not one dude in here whose ass I can't kick. Hear me out. And if I do kick their ass, they're going to be so friggin' embarrassed they got their ass kicked by a 64-year-old, right?
Not at all, it's Jason.
And if they get lucky to kick my ass, who are they going to tell that they kicked the 64-year-old's ass? Think about that. I'm like, I got it both ways now because I can't tell anybody. Guy's 64, man. Shit, I just beat up a senior citizen. I always tell people this, talk shit now. I got that where I can really talk it because I don't want to be the one beating up on a senior citizen. So.
Yeah, the AARP card.
Well, no, God, I got beat up by a senior citizen or I beat up a senior citizen. Either way, you lose. So I'm going to win.
All right. Anybody else? Any other questions? Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so you being such a big guy, did you ever think about a career like pro wrestling?
No. To be sincere, I know a lot of the wrestlers back then, remember I'm old, so back in the late 90s, or early 90s, late 80s, I did consider, wow, wrestling is starting to come on. I could bring a Jason character. One of the guys I worked with, he was, how do I put this? I always keep some things under wrap. So is there any girls, any single women out there? Anybody single? All right, you got your phone? Open it up. I don't want anybody to think I'm lying. Okay, ready? Put CJ Graham, Graham, then put Chippendales. Tell me what pops up. Oops. So anyway, Darren McBee was a Chippendale dancer with me in Culver City. He was an ex-cop. All right. He went into wrestling. Him and his wife both did. Unfortunately, she passed away. But Darren McBee was also one of the gladiators, Malibu. All right. So that was my genre. So my point is, look at, she's smiling. I'm in the Chippendales, 1987, Culver City. But, my point is, yeah, he went in and did it. He also played Conan at Universal Studios during that era. But Darren McBee did it, after he left the Chips and Universal, he did wrestling for quite a while. So, I mean, there are some, and, everybody I knew was like the Gladiators is a good example. I knew all those guys because we all worked out the same gym, so if it wasn't one, it was another we would see, but we saw everybody at the gym and everybody was like, hey, you got that commercial, good luck. Hey, I got a call back, but you got it, you asshole. I mean, it was a very nice camaraderie, and it you have good memories of it, fond memories. It's, how many people that? I mean, and you laugh about the Chippendale thing, and she's serious because she's looking at the pictures going, wow. In 2006, I was vice president of gaming operations at the Palms. I also opened up the Playboy Club. So, I was running gaming operations, and we opened up the Playboy Bunny Club, and I had to teach women that were Playboy bunnies to be dealers.
Well, was harder, that or being lit on fire?
You know what, it wasn't bad, but it's really difficult to take somebody right off the street. Anybody can go to dealing school. I went to dealing school. I learned how to deal craps 21 roulette. That's how I got in the casino industry. But to take somebody fresh, naive, boy, girl, doesn't matter, and put them right into high limit, where you've got $50,000, $500 bets in front of you, and you have to do everything procedurally perfect. That was kind of hard on the girls because they didn't realize the importance of laying cards a certain way so we could read the pips on it. The computer could see everything, or not making mistakes when they're playing a jackpot off. I mean, somebody's got, $800, $900 out there, and they had a blackjack, you better pay it correctly. They want the money. No matter how pretty you look, they want the money.
You got to math fast. Yeah.
So, I mean, it was kind of interesting. I mean, I've been very fortunate, to be fair. Been married a few times. Been married for like 12 years now. So, but I've been fortunate.
Yeah, I'd say it's a pretty solid life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the military was good to me 47 years ago. I mean, I got no complaints about that. Here I am at 64, retired, and I get to come do these things, which is amazing to me because I had no idea 35 years ago we'd be having this conversation. I always knew I could do the conventions a little bit, and that's why I go back to Kane Hodder as an ambassador. I think he's helped really build the strategy of the brand because everybody wants to meet the other Jasons now because he's out there all the time, and I mean that respectfully. Now, if Steve Dash was here, he'd be mother effing me because he hated when I would say that. Steve Dash died a couple years ago. He played Jason #2, but he'd mother eff me right about now. I'd say, Steve, they're recording this. I don't effing care. But there's little people in the audience. Off them too. You always drop that F-bomb. I'm like, damn, man, you got to stop saying that on camera. So don't say something, never insult anybody, but don't say something you're going to, oops, I should have said that. So I always try to remain to be PC, politically correct.
It's usually smart.
Who?
It helps the headaches. Anybody else? Any ideas, hopes, dreams? Yes.
All right, so in part 6, Jason's main outfit, he gets it from those paintball guys in the woods. That's where he gets all kind of the whole fit. And so it has a little too good of a fashion sense, which leads me to my question. So do you think he just took whatever they had on and ran, or do you think he sat there and was like, what would look better, the yellow blouse or the green blouse?
Well, the cool thing about Jason, and I can speak from experience because I'm a Vietnam era vet, everything Jason wore in that one was Vietnam era. The khaki shirt is Vietnam era OD green. The pants are Vietnam era khaki dress short pants. The boots are combat boots. The 18-inch machete is a jungle machete. The belt is a pistol belt from the military. Where the darts are is a 30 caliber holder from World War II. The knife is just kind of like, I call it the Rambo knife, to be honest with you. The gloves are the same ones you can get down at Home Depot. They're just work gloves. So the uniform is pretty simplistic to put together from an originality perspective, but they also had to follow a little bit of the tenure from part 4. Remember, if you recall, Ted White's wardrobe was kind of very similar to that. So I think they wanted to keep a little continuity as they carried over from part 4, i.e. skipping part 5 into 6. And then I think in 7, it got a little more gory looking from being underwater. And then it just kind of, before you know it, you got Terminator.
So what you're telling me is he did think about the outfit.
You have to. I got to look good no matter what I do. Look, these tattoos took a little bit of time, But I think it's important. I mean, no matter what, I mean that sincerely. If you're going to put something together, do it right or don't do it at all. I mean, respectfully. I mean, if you're going to do it for fun, that's one thing, but do it good. Because your name's on it. And y'all folks today are in a jackpot because we're recording everything. So you don't get to walk out. I couldn't tell you half the things I did back in the 80s or 90s. And really honestly, I can't remember half of them because they didn't think of importance to me. But who knows, So I always say, you got a picture? Nope. So. See, she's still over here playing with the Chippendale thing, this one.
Right, she's sending it to someone else now.
Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say, even Jason has fashion sense.
Exactly.
That's right, everyone should. Anyone else? For the wonderful, amazing, stupendous CJ Graham?
Whatever.
We got to build them up. Come on, folks.
Well, just so you know, I'm gonna do a photo op at 3:45 if anybody's interested in it. And I'm gonna go back to my table in a little while, and I think we're here till 8 o'clock tonight. And then tomorrow again, I think we do 10 to 6 if I recall. I'll be back at my table about 2:15. I'm gonna grab a bite to eat real quick and then head back over there. I need about 30 minutes to get in the wardrobe, so I'll only be there till about 3:15.
Just.
And they got a, what's that? And they got a real nice toilet for me to change in back here. Got a shower in it too. Looks like something out of my barracks from 1973.
Just a final question. How big of a Friday the 13th fan were you before you got that?
I wasn't. I didn't, I mean, it was cool. I'd seen Halloween in it, but it wasn't like, ooh. Again, my big thing is I really enjoyed the Universal horror monsters. They were still in my mind because that was my era. And then it just flipped over to 80s. The nice thing about the 80s is a lot of people, I mean, I like Fast and Furious and all that, but you can't jump out of a plane that many times and land on a tank and do a backflip and stand up and pick up a 50 cal and shoot. It's cool special effects, but the horror movies we're talking about, the simplicity of them without green screens, without computers and enhancements, it's kind of real. I mean, you could walk out your house and have, who's standing there with a machete, or look out your window and see, not Bigfoot, but Jason go by the window. That's freaky. That's realistically.
In your opinion, if Friday the 13th Part 6 was shot today, with today's technology, with the CGI, instead of you being underwater, I mean, what you just told me about being underwater for so long with a chain and a rock, I never expected that. Do you think if it was done in today, using today's modern technology, would have taken away from the movie that we?
I believe so.
I agree.
I believe the folks that watch it now, they're more curious about the originality of the way it was shot. With a lot of people, like the Vengeance movie I'm doing, they're shooting it. The last one, they're going to shoot this one the same way with that filtered similar to being a VHS.
Yeah.
Because of the originality of it and how it looks and how it comes across when you're watching it. It's not too pretty is the word. It's not perfect.
And a lot of studios are doing that nowadays. They're going back to the
Yeah.
format of what VHS used to look like, because there's a cult for it. There's a need for it. People are craving it. They
Right.
want it back.
Great question. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's give it up for CJ Graham. Thank you.